Welcome, everybody. My name is Benjamin Poole, one of the head traders at Verified Investing. Today, I'm going to cover a couple different stocks. I'm going to go over Target, WYFI. I'm going to go over Palantir. I'm also going to go over Garmin, Amazon, Corn. So it's a ETF. And then I'm going to show how well trend lines work. One of the comments on my YouTube channel for hidden trend lines was actually URA. And there was a hidden trend line. So a lot of people think these are like magical trend lines that, work every once in a while. There is magic and power in them if you can study them and identify key technical support and resistance levels. You can actually make a lot of money on this. So let's just go ahead and go into the charts. If I'm covering your stock and I do it in the first part of the video, please just fast forward it and continue to watch the rest of it. You may get something out of all the different charts and the reasons why I cover certain stocks and then certain trend lines going forward. So just stay tuned for it, and maybe you can get something out of it that you may not have thought you wanted to get out of it. So the first one I'm going to go over is Target for you guys. Here's the chart of Target. What I'm noticing on this chart is I have this downsloping parallel channel. I really love parallel channels. They give me a gateway into where price action is likely to get support and or resistance. Right now, we're at the upper end of this downsloping parallel channel. I want you to notice how many times this trend line, this upper boundary, has been respected. The more often a trend line tags a specific trend line or a parallel channel in this particular point, the weaker it becomes. And we did try to break out, and then it got rejected, came back inside, tried to recapture the inside of this parallel channel, and then we got another little bit of a breakout. There was a little bit of upward momentum in the whole stock market, so I'm not going to give Target a lot of credence yet on this up move. However, as long as you can stay above the support level at $87.35, then it is still going to continue higher. If we start getting rejected and price action gets pushed back inside of this parallel channel again and confirms inside of it, the next support level is going to be the midline, which is probably around $68.23. I will say, though, with Target, overall, this is down about 60% from the all-time highs. It is a dividend-paying stock. Holding on to this longer term isn't necessarily a bad thing. And then dollar cost averaging into this as well wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing either. I see this for a really long-term play if they can get their act together. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom out in the charts even more. I want you to see what I see as well. This support level at $87.35, if I extend this all the way over, look what happens. This is why price action has caught so much support in this area. This was a resistance trend line over and over and over again, finally got back above it. And now all of a sudden it's getting back into this level, and it's creating a lot of support, a lot of buyers in this particular stock. If it continues lower, the midline of this parallel channel corresponds with these low pivots right here, which price action could get down to $69. And then you have this low pivot right here at $60 even number pairs. Look at how far down Target has gotten, 68% to the downside. I still love this for a particular or for a long play. It does have this kind of pseudo head and shoulders pattern as well. So another thing to monitor if it does start breaking this trend line and then starting to break these resistance levels. The next stock I'm going to go over is WYFI. WYFI is it hasn't been around for very long. There's not a lot of price action. I'm able to go back to 2015 and see where the support levels used to be on Target, which is why it's support now. WYFI, there's not a lot of information on this chart. So let's go ahead and check this thing out. I have resistance at $25.87. The only support level that I have is this price consolidation. And this was only a little bit of price consolidation, which is why you actually got a little bit of a bounce. If price action does start breaking down below 16 bucks. Your only next level of support is going to be this low pivot. And that was the day after this IPO, $14.01. You are now breaking this down sloping trend line. However, this was only the third hit. So you got first hit, second hit, third hit, and finally broke out. This is kind of a confirmation. However, if you notice the whole market on Friday and on Wednesday, we just had this slow float up in these markets. That doesn't give me confidence that this is an independent thing for WYFI, which means that I have to wait a couple more days to finally see if this is a true breakout or if it's a true breakdown. If you are long this, if I were long this, what I would do is look to take profits at $25.87. If price can consolidate underneath this resistance level, price could end up going higher. But again, I don't have a lot of information. But what I'm going to do is, now that I'm actually noticing, you've got this hidden trend line right here, kind of goes through all this price action. Look at this. Price action can get a bit higher. It could head all the way back up and get to this $42 or $45, depending on when it hits this trend line. So you do have some support, which would be then resistance if it gets back up and retags this upsloping trend line. All right. Palantir. Palantir has been a stock that has been extremely volatile lately. It's kind of in a no man's land. It's also got another parallel channel, but this is an upsloping parallel channel. If price action can retag the underbelly of this upsloping trend line, this could be a good shorting opportunity. It's not into a buy level, but it's not into a short level for me at least. But I'm going to go ahead and show you what's going on in the charts anyways. Palantir, upsloping parallel channel. Look at how well price action has respected this boundary. It got inside of it. So this is the first hit and this is the second hit. So this is where I've connected this upsloping parallel channel. And the lower boundary is this pivot low, this pivot low. What I've noticed is the inside of this parallel channel has gotten a lot of support and or resistance when it gets there. And now keep in mind, it takes 2 pivot points in order for me to create a parallel channel. I can't just arbitrarily create a parallel channel and say, hey, you know, this is where price action is going to be. So I wouldn't have necessarily had this the entire time. I know it's easy to look back at the charts and say, this is where price action happened to hit. Well, it's the pivot points that we look at. And that gives you additional information in what's possible to happen going forward in the future. So now that we've got this parallel channel established, now we can see where price action is likely to go. And this is why I like parallel channels after they're created. So this wouldn't have been really created until this area right here. If price action gets up to about $178 based on this newly formed parallel channel, you can see that you should get some price resistance. And then if price action recaptures this parallel channel, you could head back up to the midline. See this parallel channel or this trend line inside where this dotted line is. There's going to be strong resistance. And you've got this previous pivot high, secondary pivot high. This is the new all-time high from the 3rd of November. Price action gets into this area around $215. This should be a good rejection area for Palantir. Another thing I'm noticing is $148.04. You've got this low pivot right here. These 2 pivots are creating the floor on price action. If price ends up closing below $148.04, there's not a lot of downside until you get to this high pivot point right here at $125. This would be a great buying opportunity. Not only do you have this previous pivot high from the highs in February of 2025, but look at all this price consolidation. There's been a lot of choppiness in this area. If price can get back down to $125.23, there should be a lot of buying support in this area. So that's my analysis on Palantir. If we start breaking above this upsloping trend line, it could end up heading up to about $250. So watch for that. If you're long, watch for a retrace to the scene of the crime, which is a break of this parallel channel. Wait for it to get in, price consolidation, and then you can move higher. Garmin is another stock that I was requested to go over. Garmin, there are a lot of gaps in Garmin. The issue with a lot of gaps in a particular stock chart is it's really hard to gauge price action and where the support and resistance levels are going to really stick. If you have a good trend line, and you have a lot of gaps in the charts, that can just gap below a trend line. So right now, Garmin is into a lot of support. Here's this upsloping trend line that I've noticed is the 22nd of April, 2024, secondary pivot low from the 7th of April, and I've created this trend line. One thing I was setting up before I got on here is if we drag this trend line out even further, this has actually been a pretty significant trend line. I can't remember where I drew this back to. Oh, yeah, okay, right here. Look at all these pivot tops. So price got rejected, finally got back above, and then it was support. So this is a more of a longer term trend line that goes back to the to September 2022. If price action falls below this upsloping trend line, and keep in mind that the more price action hits on a trend line, the weaker it becomes. And this is on the top side, the third hit of this upsloping trend line. So if it hits again, it is likely to bust through it to the downside. Your next level of support is going to be right here at $165.96. I know it's down significantly from the all-time highs. I'm going to go ahead and see how far down, 28%. But just going back to the target trend line or price action, I think that Garmin is going back down to $149 if you break this upsloping trend line. It just needs more of a pullback. It needs to be down at least 42%. Could even come down even lower. So that's my analysis on Garmin. There's not again, with all the gaps, it's a lot harder for me to determine a good support level that I would be comfortable buying into a stock. You want a stock that has less gaps. There's a little bit more support and resistance. Institutions are sitting at particular levels. That, like, for example, Palantir, institutions are sitting at key support levels. And that retail investors are eyeing this. When you have these gaps, market makers are really in control of this. All right, so the next one I'm going to go over is Amazon. Oh, and by the way, this is going to be a little bit longer of a video. So if you get what you need, please just continue to watch throughout the rest of it. Maybe you can catch a little bit more information that you want. All right, Amazon is the next chart I'm going over. Look at how this trend line has been respected. You've got this pivot top from the 2020 highs, secondary pivot top right here on the 31st of January. If you draw this down, you notice price action kissed this level, got rejected from it. However, now that you've got this secondary pivot, I've drawn this up here. And so it's gotten rejected from this top right here at $100 or $254. Now this trend line right here, I've got from the 2022 lows. Look at this uptrend. You had support on this level. You draw this up sloping trend line. It's respected it, finally broke down. But this was in April. So this was kind of an outlier when we had this idea that we were going to have a bunch of tariff news. And so you had this big drop, finally recaptured this upsloping support level, hit it on again. This upsloping trend line is getting weaker and weaker. If it hits again, price action could come back down to fill this $192 level on the charts of Amazon. However, price action is still respecting this upsloping trend line. So you got to say congratulations, buyers. You are in control right now. The bears try to push you away, but the bulls are still in charge. So if price continues higher, my first shortable level would be around $256. If we can get back above this upsloping trend line, you could head all the way up to about $260, $270. That would be my max upside for Amazon. And then I was trying to identify some hidden trend lines for additional support levels. So I took this top pivot top right here and connected these pivots in this area, kind of like I did on Bitcoin. See how price got rejected, consolidated a little bit, finally broke below, finally broke above, and then you got support again. And this corresponds with this upsloping trend line. This gives me more confidence that this is a pretty solid hidden trend line in the charts. So your first level of support, again, is going to be around $204. But ultimately, I think it's going down to $192 if we break this upsloping trend line. The further down we go on this trend line, the more and more confidence I have that it will get to this $192.96 level on as soon as it gets on this upsloping, or excuse me, this downsloping trend line. All right, next one. I didn't know some of you guys liked commodities, so I'm going to go over corn. So I'm going to use the CORN ETF on this one. I really love the charts. This chart is now starting to look more bullish. It's starting to create higher lows and higher highs, and this is indicative of an uptrend with the potential to really skyrocket. So here's the CORN chart. I have this down-sloping trend line that I've connected this pivot top, this kiss right here at $19.75. Look at how price action got rejected, consolidated right underneath this support level. But this is not where we would have bought this this commodity. We would have waited for a retrace. This would have been a good buy level, another good buy level, another good buy level, knowing that you still got this upsloping trend line, or excuse me, downsloping trend line that has been respected. So it's likely to break out. What I do like about the corn chart, though, is what I was mentioning, is you've got this pivot low here, and you got this pivot high. You got a higher low, a higher high. We create this higher low right here. So what we want, if we can take out $18.27, you are going to have this massive push to the upside on CORN, and it's going to get to $19.75. This would be my first level that I would be interested in taking profits on this exit. If we can start breaking this $19.75 level, consolidate right in this area, you could continue higher and go all the way up to this pivot top at $20.70. I'm going to zoom out on this chart. Look at how down, beaten up CORN is on the daily time frame. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to remove this trend line. I'm going to draw another trend line to see where additional resistance level can be. I'm going to connect this pivot top, this pivot top. Look at this. If price action takes a little bit to consolidate, not only do you have this previous price action here, previous price action here, pivot top. This is why I like this $19.75 level on the CORN chart. URA, this was one of the members noticed this hidden trend line from the 6th of September. Look at how price action respected this trend line, consolidated right above it, broke down, finally got this huge fall. Price action then got into this resistance trend line, got a nice fall. Now price action could head up a little bit higher. I am noticing this downsloping trend line here that connects this pivot top, and this price action. A good buy level would be this retrace to the scene of the crime right here around $34.04, depending on how price action gets into this trend line. And it would likely match up with these pivot tops. So again, $34 is where I would likely buy URA. I wouldn't short this for a while. It's in a kind of a downtrend. You got the pivot top, a low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. In order for you to change the trajectory of it, you need to break this wide range red bar candle, and then you can start moving higher on URA. Awesome. Again, this is a much longer video. This is about a 19-minute video. And if you watched the whole time, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And if you guys have any additional comments, please leave them below like you always do. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you guys next time in the charts. You guys have a great rest of your day, and take care. Oh, yeah, last thing. Please, if you could, if you don't mind, sharing with your friends, liking, subscribing if you haven't already, and ringing that bell so you can get notified every morning that I go live, or not when I go live, when I post these recordings. And if you guys want more charting, every morning at 8:45, I do go live on verifiedinvesting.com for more charting action. Gives you day trades and some swing trade setups as well. So with that, I will bid you guys farewell, and we'll see you guys next time in the charts. Take care.